Unbelievable insights revealed, the end of the world according to ancient scriptures. Few knew what truly happened that night. The stars twinkled with a strange intensity, as if whispering secrets to those willing to listen. In the heart of Jerusalem, shadows danced in the glow of flickering torches. The air buzzed with fear and anticipation. A prophecy loomed, heavy like the weight of a stone, perched above the fate of mankind. It was the night God would reveal his plan, a curtain pulled back on destiny itself. A murmur rippled through the cobbled streets, a blend of curiosity and dread. People gathered, their faces etched with disbelief. They spoke of signs in the heavens and earth, great upheavals, the sun turning black, the moon dripping blood. A chilling thrill coursed through the crowd, each whisper fueling the intensity of their uncertainty. They clutched their children tightly, eyes wide with terror and wonder. Had the time come? Was this truly the end? Just outside the city, the Capernaum sea shimmered eerily, reflecting the chaos of the sky above. This was no ordinary night. It felt alive, electric with a force that tingled through the body. A man stood by the shore, his silhouette stark against the moonlight, roiling waves crashing around his feet. This was Jesus, the prophet. His presence promised miracles and spoke of an upheaval that could shake the very foundations of faith. Onlookers couldn't look away. They felt drawn to him, but also terrified. What could he really do? Spirits trembled as he raised his hands, and for a moment, silence enveloped the throng. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then, the voice that emerged was thunderous, yet gentle. Repent. For the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Fear morphed into hope, as the people grappled with the gravity of his words. But why did the heavens weep? Some looked skyward. Was this a warning? Or a promise? As whispers turned to shouts, a sudden silence fell. The wind stilled. Unease painted every face. Miraculous healings and prophetic promises flooded their minds, but contradictions clawed at their hearts. If a kingdom was coming, then why must it bring such fear? Then came the rumbling thunder, relentless like the pounding of a heart. Nature herself seemed to shudder in response. It was urgent, terrifying. Time had collapsed upon itself. What can man do when faced with divine wrath? The crowd watched, paralyzed. Would they witness the end or the beginning? Doubt loomed thick and heavy like fog. Each heart raced. Hope and fear wrestled violently within. How much longer could they stand before the truth was revealed? As the light of the moon flickered in and out, so did their understanding. Was this God's plan? Or the devil's work? The line blurred, leaving their minds racing with questions. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. A thick veil of uncertainty clouded the minds of the people surrounding Jesus. The silence was a taut string waiting to snap. Among the crowd, a heart trembled deeper than most. Although many felt the weight of fear, one woman's heart was an ocean of sorrow. She had heard whispers of the long-awaited Messiah, yet her life had been marred by loss. Her name was Miriam, and every breath felt like a reminder of what she had lost. Stepping forward from the shadows, she felt the weight of the moment push against her chest. The stories of this man, this Jesus, had traveled through the streets of her life like a river flowing past her, yet never reaching her. But now, consumed by the tormented cries of her spirit, she could no longer stand by. Was there hope for her pain? Could a prophecy hold beneath its wings the salve for her wounds? As she raised her hands, trembling with anticipation, she found her voice a whisper in the storm. Rabbi! Is it true? Can one like you bring healing to one so broken? The crowd turned, drawn toward her raw appeal, their breath caught in the throats of realization. Here stood a woman, torn yet hopeful, embodying the struggle between fear and faith that coursed through each soul present. Jesus' gaze settled on her, eyes like deep wells reflecting understanding and sorrow. "Your faith has drawn you near," he replied, his voice soft yet firm. "What burden do you carry?" In that moment, the air shifted. A collective understanding, a tether of shared humanity, wrapped around the throng. Here, the fear found company in hope. Miriam stepped closer, her vulnerability an open wound. "I have lost my only son, taken too soon from this world. I have mourned alone, and my heart cries for the life that was stolen." The crowd breathed in deeply, her pain resonating with them, for they too bore losses, each in their silent way. The stars watched, as if bearing witness to this vulnerable exchange between soul and soul. And then came a shift, not only the change in the weather around them, but a shift in the realm beyond the natural. The thunder hushed, replaced by a profound stillness, as nature paused in reverence. What was emerging felt palpable, the mysterious touch of the divine hovered close. "Your grief is sacred," Jesus said, his words laced with the authority of the heavens. He raised his hand skyward, the unity of the cosmos and the earth converging around them. "But know this, death is not the end. The kingdom that is to come is a tapestry woven through the very fabric of life and restoration." Will you believe? In that moment, Miriam's heart raced. Could she embrace the mysterious promise of restoration? Hope danced close, yet fear held its ground. Around them, the chaos of the world felt distant. The crowd leaned closer, transformed by the connection. Their fear intermingled with hope. What does restoration mean if it is wrapped in death? She wondered aloud, her voice steadying, questioning even as she hoped. How can we trust in a promise when finality hangs above us? As the moon pulled on the tides of their emotions, Jesus turned to the crowd. "Life will encounter death, but know this, the seeds of faith sprout in the silence of despair. Do you not see? My presence here tonight is the light through the darkness. Can you embrace the unknown?" The question lingered, echoing in the hearts of many. With uncertainty radiating through the air, the energy shifted once more, a promise for those courageous enough to journey beyond their fear. While the fundamental questions of loss and redemption unfolded in the heavy night, could faith be strong enough to transcend despair? Could the fragile bond of hope endure against overwhelming darkness? The people stood frozen, still wrestling with what they had witnessed, the shadows around them no less frightening but now glimmering with the faint light of possibility. As the murmurs of the crowd intertwined, resignation and awakening coexisted in the air. Miriam stood rooted in the moment, her mind a whirlwind of questions. Shadows played tricks at the corners of her eyes, and for an instant, she felt as though time itself had folded upon itself, past sorrow, present hope, and future promise colliding in cosmic stillness. Jesus, sensing the weight around him heavy with expectation, took a breath deep enough to draw in the essence of all present. "Listen to me, beloved children of the earth. Life, though fleeting, offers nothing without the shadow of death casting its form. In mourning, one learns the sacred depth of love. In your heartbreak, I call forth the very essence of the divine." The words seemed to rise from the depths of the cosmos itself, wrapping around the crowd in an embrace both unsettling and comforting. Miriam felt her heart race with questions that spun like golden threads in her mind. "Rabbi, if love and mourning are intertwined, does that mean I must embrace the pain to understand the promise?" "Indeed," Jesus responded, his expression unwavering. "To know joy, you must first recognize sorrow. The kingdom will come to those who accept this duality, who sit in their grief and allow it to transform them. Do you feel the pull? Each tear is a spark for what is reborn. Can you embrace your loss as a testament to your love?" The crowd held its breath, ripples of understanding washing over them. They were not merely spectators but participants in a deeper narrative, one which echoed throughout the ages. Their sorrows were not isolated. They belonged to a tapestry that bore witness to the human condition. Each person shared a thread of grief, woven together in the fabric of existence. What of the world? Someone from the back cried out, voicing the collective uncertainty. How can we believe in restoration when chaos reigns? With wars and suffering, where is the light? Each moment of despair, each act of hatred, stands as a challenge to your faith, Jesus replied, his voice rising with an emotional fervor that stirred hearts. But do not dismiss the light in the shadows. Even in the dimmest corners of existence, love endures. It is in your hands to ignite that flame, to choose to see beyond the darkness that envelopes the land. Restoration is not merely a promise or a distant dream, it is a call to action, a journey through the very heart of pain toward renewal. Will you take that step? Miriam felt the stirrings of something deep within, a flicker amid the depths of her sorrow. Was it possible that her pain could drive her to a greater understanding, to a more profound connection with others and with the divine? Standing now before the man who had ignited those questions in her heart, she found her voice a newfound strength rising from her vulnerabilities. But, Rabbi, what does it mean if our restoration does not come in this life? Are we to wait for some unknown moment, for a future we cannot grasp? Ah, dear Miriam, therein lies the greatest mystery, Jesus said, eyes shimmering with insight. For restoration is both here and yet still to come. The kingdom reveals itself as you walk in faith, even amidst the shards of your situation stronger, richer for the pain endured. Like the farmer who sows his seeds deep into the earth, so must you sow your love in the face of sorrow, trusting that in due time, something precious will rise again. Life, death, and resurrection are entwined, the cycle continues beyond human comprehension. The crowd listened, transfixed as each heart wrestled with the reality of this profound truth. With each breath, Miriam began to relax around the painful knowledge that her heart could both ache and hope simultaneously. For every story of loss she had known, surely others had stories rich with love to illuminate the path ahead, but yet in the silence that followed, a new question arose within her soul, quietly yet persistently. If our greatest understanding lies in this entwining of love and loss, do we dare accept the responsibility of that journey? Are we brave enough to walk through our grief, to rise in love, though the world imperils us with darkness? As the echoes of her inquiry danced in the night air, the luminescent moon looked down upon them, a witness to their turmoil, their faith, and their search for understanding. Would they embrace the weight of their questions, even as they unspooled into a quest that went on beyond the stars? As the crowd lingered in contemplation, the night deepened, and the air thickened with anticipation. Jesus turned his gaze to the heavens, as if seeking answers from the very source of life. The stars shimmered above, forming a tapestry that seemed to wink knowingly at the struggles of humanity below. Each glint whispered promises of light breaking through the burdens of darkness. Miriam stepped forward, emboldened by a newfound resolve. The echoes of her thoughts still resonated within her, the question weighed heavily upon her heart. Rabbi, is the journey of love and loss meant to lead us somewhere? Should we be preparing for something greater beyond this life? Ah, Miriam, he replied, gentleness woven through his tone. Every journey is a preparation, each step a lesson leading to the divine. Do not merely think of restoration as an end, but as part of an ongoing story. The kingdom is indeed near, yet it does not dwell solely in the realm of what you call reality. It emerges in your hearts, in your connections, in your choices to love amid suffering. Are you ready to bear witness to this unfolding? The crowd murmured, their eyes unwavering from him, drawn into the depth of his words. One man, hesitant yet compelled, spoke up, but if we are to seek this kingdom within us, what of the world around us that feels so broken? The darkness seems ever present, remember this, Jesus said, with an intensity that penetrated their souls. The light does not extinguish in the face of darkness, rather, it beckons you to make a choice. To choose the path of love is to shine a light amidst shadows. How can your heart, filled with compassion, transform the world? In holding each other's grief and joy, you become vessels of peace. It begins with a single act, a whisper of kindness, a choice to listen. Miriam felt the weight of his words settle in her bones, igniting something that had lain dormant within. Could the simple act of embracing community, shared joys and pains alike, build the foundation for a renewed world? Yet doubts swirled like autumn leaves caught in a brisk wind. Rabbi, what if our efforts seem futile? What if our hearts break again? Rest assured, Miriam, your journeys may weave through trials and tribulations, Jesus replied, his eyes alive with tenderness. But to pursue love is never in vain. In every act of compassion, seeds are planted, flowering in ways unseen. Trust the process, trust the divinity sewed into the fabric of connection. Every heartbreak is a stepping stone to deeper love, every loss a seed for future growth. And remember, the world may indeed feel tumultuous, but it is the courage of your hearts that will light the path for others. As the word settled, Miriam felt an awakening of sorts within the hearts of those gathered. The crowd shifted from a place of uncertainty to a collective realization, they were not alone. Together, they formed a grand mosaic, each individual pain and joy contributing to a deeper understanding of the world around them. Their grief was a canvas, their love the vibrant hues painting a new tale, yet, amid the encroaching hope, questions lingered unanswered and heavy. Someone asked softly, if love transforms in grief, what awaits that love once it bears fruit? Will we recognize it? Will we be ready to embrace the outcome? As the moon cast its luminous gaze, illuminating the faces filled with newfound vigor and determination, the air pulsated with an unresolved tension. Miriam clasped her hands, feeling the softness of vulnerability wrapped in strength. And in the end, when the light emerges, what if it reveals truth too great to bear? Are we prepared for the revelations that may change our understanding of life, love, and our very essence? The flicker of mutual anticipation burned in the atmosphere, a palpable energy connecting each soul present. United by their questions, they stood at the brink of something profound, a journey not yet fully understood, but entirely destined to intertwine with the cosmic dance of existence itself. The echo of inquiry hung like fragrant incense, lingering in the air, drifting into the night. If love's journey through loss leads us to an unimaginable truth, do we dare to step forward into the unknown? As the words echoed into the night, a hush fell over the assembly. The questions that even the stars seemed to ponder lingered in the air. The deep caverns of their hearts were now gathering the courage to confront not only love's possibilities but also its inevitable trials. Jesus observed the shifting emotions coursing through the crowd and then spoke, his voice a gentle breeze among the heavy leaves of doubt. It is often in uncertainty that we find our greatest clarity, my friends. The darkness may seem threatening, but remember, it is within shadows that light finds its strength. A woman from the fringes, her face illuminated by a small flame, dared to voice the fear that gripped her. Rabbi, we yearn for understanding, yet our hearts are heavy with fear of loss and betrayal. How can we stand firm in love when the fabric of our lives appears so fragile? Ah, dear one, Jesus replied, directing his gaze toward her as if she held the weight of humanity's fears. Life's fragility is not a curse but a reminder of its preciousness. Every moment you embrace love, you stitch your spirit into the tapestry of existence, one thread at a time. Doubt will always lurk, but it's in our collective suffering that we learn to weave resilience. Miriam felt her spirit stir, recognizing that the journey dwelled not only in leaps of faith but in the willingness to tread through uncertainties hand in hand. A voice arose from behind her, a young man filled with fervor. But what of the dreams we hold? When we discover love, what if it eludes us in moments of pain? Will our efforts amount to something greater than just ephemeral joy? Ah, dreams, dear friend, came the response, as Jesus' presence enveloped them all with warmth. They are the visions of what could be, serving as a guidepost for your journey. They will evolve as you do. You may face moments of despair, yet even in hardship, the possibility of joy rekindles like a flame in the hearth. Trust that your heart, when aligned with love, will lead you to revelations beyond what you can foresee. As the flames flickered, casting playful shadows against the backdrop, Miriam felt the shared energy of hope and terror intertwining. What did it truly mean to trust in the unseen? The vagueness of the future swirled around her, a compelling mystery. Rabbi, if we act in love now, how do we prepare ourselves for the potential we cannot grasp? How do we align our expectations with our reality? Jesus contemplated the question, a distant look drawing across his gaze. The fullness of love is captured in the embrace of faith. You cannot fully map the contours of God's plans for your lives, for they are woven into the very fabric of the cosmos. The only way to navigate this tumultuous journey is to remain open to joy, open to suffering, and open to transformation. When love pulsates through your veins, shadows become less daunting. Your hearts will awaken not just to gain but also to loss, for each moment of tenderness redefines you. The crowd drew closer, each person wrapping their thoughts around the shared understanding that emerged like a fragile bloom in spring. In that moment, an elder, infused with wisdom, raised his voice, trembling yet resolute. But, Rabbi, if love's journey persists through the unknown, are we ever ready for what lies ahead? Can we receive the gifts of truth when they arrive, or will we turn away, too burdened by the weight of what we cannot comprehend? As silence enveloped them again, the air tinged with reverence, and the moon hid behind a peculiarly dark cloud. Jesus held the gaze of each person around him, and a collective breath was drawn, embracing the uncertainty of both love and loss. Eyes seeking the light must also confront darkness, for they dwell parallel. To be ready is not to predict the outcome, but rather to cultivate a heart willing to embrace all that unfolds. Miriam leaned into the stillness, feeling the pulse of inquiry resonate deeply within her. The night raised more questions than answers, an abyss of possibilities waiting to be uncovered. If the journey reveals ever greater truths, will we find the strength to meet them? Or will our hearts falter in the face of understanding beyond our wildest dreams? In that shared moment of reflection, the crowd, bound by their search for truth, stood on the cusp of transformation. The air buzzed with curiosity, a lingering tension that stretched into infinity, holding them in the embrace of impending revelation. Each heart ached to understand, yet the path remained cloaked in the mystery of the unfolding journey. Would they dare to walk forward into the deeper realms of love? The silence hung thick like mist on the water, enveloping the assembly in a palpable tension. As the moon tried to pierce through the shroud of clouds, it cast a faint glow that danced in the eyes of the gathered. They were seekers in a world fraught with questions, peering into the abyss of understanding, yearning to discern the shadows that stretched before them. Jesus remained still, a stable figure against the changing tide of emotions around him. He seemed to sense their unease, meeting their uncertainties with a gaze that promised both solace and challenge. The night whispered stories of old, echoing promises and prophecies, revealing more layers of the divine tapestry woven into their lives. Tell me, Jesus began, his voice resonating with the weight of ancient truths, what shadows do you each carry? What fears gnaw at the edges of your souls, inviting doubt to take root? A young woman, her hands clasped in restless prayer, spoke first. Rabbi, I fear that my love is insufficient. That even as I offer my heart, I am merely a flickering candle against the darkness. How can I be certain my love is strong enough to weather the storms of life? With a gentle smile, Jesus replied, strength is not born from the absence of fear but from the courage to confront it. The heart that loves bravely does not shield itself from doubt, rather, it embraces vulnerability as a necessary thread in the weave of connection. In your willingness to love fully flaws and all you allow the light to shine through the cracks of your being. Miriam listened intently, recognizing the power of his words in her own heart. She realized that the love she sought was not just a destination but a journey rich with the paradoxes of existence. But what of the shadows that whispered of loss and betrayal? The weight of unfulfilled dreams lingered heavily in the An elder, who had remained silent until now, spoke up with a tremor in his voice. Rabbi, if love demands such courage, how do we prepare for its inevitable trials? What if the very fabric of our dreams unravels in the face of sorrow? Ah, Jesus mused, looking out upon the faces full of hope yet cast in shadow. In life, you shall endure trials that seem insurmountable. Yet, each trial carries within it a lesson, a chance to deepen your understanding of love's true nature. You may lose what you believe you cannot live without, but remember, loss can also be a teacher, guiding the heart toward wisdom. Miriam felt a stirring in her spirit, an understanding dawning like the first light of dawn. With each beat of her heart, she pondered the meaning of resilience in the face of uncertainty. Rabbi, must we let go of everything we cherish to embrace the unknown? Is it possible to hold tightly to love and still be open to the shifting winds of fate? Jesus regarded her with a depth of compassion. To love is to invite both joy and risk into your life. You do not forsake what you cherish, instead, you learn to cherish all that you experience, be it joy or sorrow. The act of loving is a commitment to remain present, even when the ground beneath you shakes. Be steadfast in your embrace, and you shall discover that love endures beyond the boundaries of your fears. As those words settled over the assembly, the tension transformed into a profound sense of connection. The darkness no longer seemed so daunting, but rather an integral part of their journey. The crowd began to share their own fears and revelations, their voices intertwining in a chorus of vulnerability and hope. Yet, within the warm embrace of shared humanity, Miriam felt a lingering question pulse within her. What if their deepest truths were concealed not merely behind the trials they faced but also locked within their understanding of love itself? Would it be enough to carry them through the unfolding mysteries ahead? With this thought, she turned her gaze back to Jesus, hopeful, yet still questioning. Rabbi, as we embrace the trials of love, how do we recognize the divine presence guiding our steps? Will we discern the whispers of truth among the louder clamor of our fears, or shall we remain blind to the miracles unfolding around us? The air thickened with the anticipation of wisdom, yet the answer remained elusive. They stood together, witnessing the unfurling of their collective consciousness, leaning into the mystery of understanding yet to be revealed. Would they dare to step boldly into the unknown, trusting in the delicate balance of love and loss? As the flickering night continued, the assembly held its collective breath, drawn into the gravity of Miriam's inquiry. Jesus shifted slightly, his expression warm but contemplative, as if reflecting on the very fabric of existence woven between them. The moonlight, now breaking through the clouds, illuminated a path upon the earth, beckoning them to explore further into the depths of their shared revelations. Fear not the influences that clamor for your attention, he began, his voice steady, like a guiding light in the darkness. For even in the noise, the truth finds its way through the subtle whispers of your heart. Seek to quiet the storm within. In stillness, the divine can be heard, revealing insights that pierce through layers of doubt. Miriam searched the eyes of those around her as Jesus spoke. She could sense their yearning, it wound through the very air, making the hairs on her arms stand in appreciation of the moment. But Rabbi, how can we cultivate this stillness in a world where chaos is ever present? Our fears wrestle with our desires, clouding our judgment. Jesus offered a gentle smile, almost as if he were inviting each person to reflect on their individual journeys. Each of you carries within the seed of connection to the sacred. However, the noise of life can bury it beneath layers of anxiety and expectation. Begin with the practice of gratitude, it will help you discern the music of the divine amid the discord. Allow your heart to recognize the gifts, the small instances of grace that flit through your days. Encouraged, the elder who had first spoken chimed in, his voice quivering with eagerness. Rabbi, if these gifts often pass unnoticed, what practices can kindle this awareness? How do we even begin to recognize the holy in our mundane lives? Repetition is a teacher, Jesus responded, his eyes flickering over the circle's attentive faces. Remember, the heavens declare the glory of God in the simplest of things: a blooming flower, a child's laughter, the embrace of a friend. Each moment presents an opportunity for awakening to the divine. Engage with the world around you, sharpen your senses, awareness nourishes the soul's growth. Miriam felt a spark within. The urgency of connection huddled in her chest, and she considered the tender moments she often overlooked. But Rabbi, what if the heart grows weary? What if our pursuit of these divine connections leads us into further pain? Can our spirits truly transcend the burdens we carry? The scars you speak of are the maps of your journey, Jesus articulated, leaning forward, his eyes akin to deep wells of wisdom. Each pain offers a glimpse into your depths, they can lead you toward the light if you allow them. Embrace your sorrows alongside your joys, for it is in their interplay that the most profound miracles can bloom. Your wounds are but reminders that love, in its purest form, asks you to stretch beyond. Trust in the alchemy of existence, you shall emerge transformed. The group exchanged glances, pondering the weight of his words. Miriam imagined the wounded hearts in her community, wrapped in uncertainty. Could they, too, meet their wounds with reverence and let them guide them toward divine understanding? And what of her personal journey, woven with myriad threads of hope and fear? But Rabbi, she ventured once more, her voice trembling with anticipation, how do we know when the time comes for us to act? When should we trust our hearts to step boldly toward love, and when should we hold back, seeking refuge and nurturing our wounds? Jesus raised an eyebrow, a glint of mischief in his expression. Ah, the art of discernment. This lies at the core of your journey. When love beckons, it often dances just beyond the veil of fear, inviting courage. In moments of uncertainty, turn to your spirit and listen intently. The path may not always be clear, but your heart, anchored in authenticity, will guide your choices. It is important to remember, courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. The assembly buzzed with a new understanding, yet Miriam remained perched at the edge of uncertainty. Could she embody this courage Jesus spoke of amid the swirling doubts that accompanied her? Would she have the strength to dance with her fears rather than evade their grasp? As the moon rose higher, casting silvery light over the gathering, the question echoed in her mind: would the quest for discernment reveal itself through her willingness to be vulnerable, or was there still a part of her clinging to shadows that yearned for the light? What revelations awaited them as they dared to tread deeper into the enigma of love, loss, and the divine? The night deepened, and the air crackled with the thoughts that lingered in the hearts of those assembled. The moon, now bold in its ascent, cast long shadows that danced like ancient spirits around them. Miriam's mind swirled with the echoes of Jesus' words, and she could feel the gravity of their discussion begin to shift, taking on a life of its own. "Rabbi," a voice called from the edge of the circle, rather timid yet imbued with a quiet strength. It belonged to the youngest among them, a boy named Eli. "You've spoken of discernment and the courage to embrace love. Yet what of the darkness, the uncertainty that seems to loom unending over our lives? What do we do when fear grips us so tightly that it chokes the breath from our being?" Jesus turned his gaze toward Eli, his expression softening as he considered the depth of the boy's question. "Fear, dear child, is a companion on this journey of life, but it is not the master of it. Look closely at the shadows it casts. Sometimes, they reveal the contours of your deepest desires. You must learn to dance with your fear, as I spoke before, for only in acknowledging it can you find the strength to move beyond it. A hush fell over the group as Ella's countenance reflected both confusion and hope. "But how can we be certain that we won't lose ourselves in this dance? That we won't get lost within our shadows?" His question hung thick in the air, pregnant with a yearning for reassurance. "Certainty is a veil that often clouds our vision," Jesus replied, his voice low but resonant, carrying the weight of all who had ever longed for peace. "Trust in the process of growth, and understand that losing oneself may be a part of the sacred journey. Sometimes you must let pieces of yourself go to discover the wholeness that awaits you on the other side." Miriam could feel her heart pounding, resonating with Ella's trembling vulnerability. The path that lay ahead felt uncharted, and yet it was drawing her in with gravitational force. But what if we let go and find only emptiness? What if we are left disillusioned? Disillusionment is often the herald of transformation, Jesus taught, his voice a gentle balm. When you let go of the familiar, the divine makes room for the new. Embrace the mystery of uncertainty instead of fearing it. The questions that arise from your honest seeking are often far more important than the answers you uncover. A silence settled like a heavy fog, each person grappling with the weight of this wisdom. Miriam's thoughts cascaded. She envisioned the silent, heavy discontent that had settled over her community. In their pursuit of security, had they not forsaken the adventure of discovering the unknown? Was it possible that, in an attempt to protect themselves from loss, they had trapped their hearts in an existence devoid of deeper connections? Ella's voice broke through her contemplations once again, rising above the stillness. "But if we are to trust in this journey, what is it that we should strive towards? How can we know our path is aligned with the will of the divine?" Jesus leaned back slightly, taking a moment to answer. "The heart knows the language of the soul. Learn to listen through intuition, through nature, through the quiet moments of reflection. The journey is a partnership with the divine, but it requires your willingness to act upon the nudges of inspiration. When you recognize divine light within, you will find clarity in the darkness. Joy begins to illuminate the path toward your purpose." Miriam felt a swell of hope within her. Perhaps their community could break from its fears and recalibrate toward love. Yet questions still buzzed in her mind like restless bees. Could they truly embrace the uncertainty of their lives and trust the unseen to shepherd them through? What adjustments would they need to make in their hearts? As the moonlight continued to bathe the gathering in its soft glow, another thought surfaced. Was it through acceptance of their doubts and their joys that they would find the courage to allow love to flourish? Or would they remain captive to their fears, forever postponing the light they so desperately sought? In the midst of the gathering, the true essence of their quest began to crystallize. Would they dare to step toward the shadows, illuminating the way with faith, or retreat into the safety of their fears, allowing the light of love to fade into the distance? The night continued to weave itself into a tapestry of whispered reflections, the soft rustle of leaves accompanying the heartbeat of the earth. Miriam's curiosity grew amidst the shadows. She craved to grapple with the very uncertainties that held them captive. Guided by the flickering flame of inspiration, she felt an anchor form within her heart, urging her to ask once more. "Rabbi," she began, her voice steady. "If fear is but a companion, and if our darkest shadows can lead us to light, what then do we do with the pain we encounter? The pain that seems at times too great, almost unbearable. Is it still part of this divine journey?" Jesus acknowledged her fragility, nodding slowly. "Indeed, pain has a sacred role to play," he responded, the weight of his words filling the space around them. "It is in pain that you can find the deepest wells of compassion and understanding for both yourself and others. Each wound bears a story, every tear contributes to the tapestry of your existence." That he paused, letting the truth saturate the air. "In your community, where sorrow often lingers like a thick mist, it is crucial to face that pain head-on, to honor it. Transforming the rawness within you into expression but through loving actions, shared experiences, or understanding silence can yield the fruit of healing." Miriam looked around. The faces surrounding her were a vivid collage of opportunity and sorrow. Ella's brow furrowed as he raised another question from the depths of his youthful spirit. "But how do we carry the burden of pain without allowing it to weigh us down? Can we be both strong and vulnerable? There lies the paradox of the human experience," Jesus replied, his eyes gleaming with wisdom. "Strength is not the absence of vulnerability, but rather the embracing of it. Allow yourself to be open to the full spectrum of emotions. There lies not only courage but profound connection. For through the shared experience of pain, you foster community, underscoring the truth that none walk this path alone." That he gestured to the moonlit sky, drawing their attention. "Look how the shadows cannot exist without light. Embrace both in your lives. In pain, as in love, your souls are woven together, for every moment is steeped with the richness of experience." Miriam felt her heart swell with an understanding that began to weave its way through her consciousness. Had the community's attempt to shield themselves from pain only extended their isolation? She considered their fears that often wrapped around them like chains, shackling them in place. Perhaps it was only by recognizing their intertwined stories, both joyful and sorrowful, that they could truly forge a path toward wholeness. As the night deepened further, Jesus' voice resonated softly. "Do not be afraid to express your pain or to share your joy, let them intertwine, for therein lies hope. In the collective heartbeat of vulnerability lies the strength to inspire one another toward love. Remember, as you navigate this journey, your story contributes to the eternal narrative." A silence hovered, thick with revelation. The group absorbed this notion, considering its implications. Could they cultivate both their joy and their sorrow within their community? Would they find strength in their collective narratives, thereby illuminating their journey amidst the dark? Eli tilted his head in contemplation, a new light flickering in his eyes. What if we fail to rise from our pain? What if we remain bound and unable to connect with love? The question is not about the inevitability of failure, Jesus replied, a profound gentleness in his voice. It is about acknowledging your fallibility and honoring the journey. Trust that it is not the falling that defines you, it is how you choose to rise, to learn, and to love again. In your moments of doubt, cling to hope. Through your vulnerability, grace shall blossom. Miriam felt the gravity of this truth pull her into newfound depths of connection and purpose. In facing their pain and intertwining it with love, they might just unravel the threads that had bound their spirits. But still, a lingering thought persisted. Even with these profound insights, how could they effectively guide their community to shed the fear that had rooted them for so long? Would the willingness to embrace vulnerability spark a transformation, or would it evoke further retreat into their shadows? And in this shared struggle, what would it take for them to emerge together, transcending the pain toward a brighter dawn? As the shadows of the night deepened, they stood together, each heartbeat resonating with the transformative words of Jesus. Around them, hope began to weave itself through the tangled fabric of uncertainty and despair, igniting a flicker of resolve within the hearts gathered by the Capernaum Sea. Miriam felt the weight of her questions intensify, birthing an unquenchable desire for change. Could their collective pain become a conduit for understanding? The time had come to challenge their fears, to confront the shadows that had held them in bondage for too long. With each passing breath, she recognized the power of prayerful intention, the quiet strength that arises from acceptance and connection. "Rabbi," she said, her voice resolute yet quivering with vulnerability, "if healing lies within our ability to embrace our stories, our pain and joy intertwined, then how do we begin this journey? Where do we find the strength to transform our struggles into healing?" As the crowd leaned in, a collective anticipation pulsed within the air. Jesus regarded Miriam with a gaze that seemed to pierce through the veils of her doubt. "Ah, dear Miriam, the journey begins in the heart, within the choices you make each day. Healing is not a destination, it is a process. Every moment presents an opportunity to choose love, to show compassion to yourself and to others." The crowd absorbed his wisdom, the ripple of understanding weaving through them. "Trust in the process," he continued. "Engage with your fears, acknowledge their presence. Let your wounds become not sources of despair but wells of wisdom. Speak and share, for in your openness, the light of your spirit can shine through the cracks." Miriam felt a profound stirring within her, a calling to action ignited by Jesus' words. If they were to accept their pain together, how might they embody that radical truth? She envisioned a community gathered in earnest, hearts cracked open, hands reaching out to one another, sharing burdens and experiences like sacred offerings. "Rabbi, could we initiate this transformation today? Could we start a gathering, a time where we share our stories, our vulnerabilities, without shame?" Jesus nodded, his expression full of encouragement. "Yes, dear Miriam, create a sanctuary of belonging, a space where each story is treasured, a balm for the heart, where love can spark and grow. There lies power in communal sharing, in acknowledging your pain, you will unlock the grace waiting to unfold. Lean into your uncertainties and let your love light the path." Her heart racing, Miriam turned to the crowd. The flicker of hope ignited by Jesus' words began to encapsulate their collective being. She felt them shift, as if awakening from a long slumber. "Will you join me?" she called out, her spirit bold and defiant against the backdrop of fear. "Let us gather together, let us break these chains of isolation with our stories. We are woven together by our experiences, our joys and our sorrows. We can bear witness to one another's pain and grow collectively stronger." An echo of murmurs followed her daring call, hesitance flickering through the crowd, but also a whisper of courage. One by one, they began to nod, to find solace in the truth hanging between them. Their fears, while real, lost their power in the shared humanity of their struggle. As moonlight streamed through the clouds, illuminating the faces of the crowd, Jesus watched the transformation of doubt into determination. "Remember, dear children, the journey towards healing is not merely for yourselves but for the generations that follow. As you unveil your stories, you invite others to do the same. Each voice that rises is a thread that binds your community closer, a mark of love that will echo through the ages." Miriam felt the presence of something profound swell within her heart, a recognition of purpose that transcended mere existence. Hope swirled in the air like the petals of blooming flowers, unearthing joy from the terrain of grief. With renewed spirit, she posed a question that held the weight of her yearning, "But what if we stumble? What if the shadows threaten to pull us back?" Jesus smiled gently, his eyes glimmering with understanding. "Stumbles are beautiful markers on your journey. They remind you of your humanity, your courage, and your willingness to dance even with the shadows. Allow your stumbles to be lessons, treat them tenderly and let them guide you like a compass towards love." As the crowd absorbed his words, Miriam felt the walls of fear crumble brick by brick. In that sacred twilight moment, she imagined the gatherings yet to come, the stories shared like balms for wounds, love blossoming in unexpected places. They were no longer solitary voyagers but interwoven threads in the grand tapestry of divine understanding. With the courage stoked by belonging, the gathered souls began to murmur their own acceptance, their readiness to embark on this journey together. They would step into the light, into the unknown, hands clasped in solidarity, hearts open to transformation. And in that moment of resolution, the sky erupted with light as if acknowledging their commitment. The stars shone brighter, twinkling with the promises of hope and the divine dance of love. Jesus raised his hands towards the heavens, acknowledging the celestial chorus that surrounded them. "Look," he said softly, "the kingdom of heaven has always resided within you, a flicker waiting for you to tend the flame. Release your fears, embrace your love, and you shall witness the rebirth of your community from ashes into bloom." With that, a wave of clarity washed over the crowd, a collective awakening, a vital recognition of their potential to transform not just their lives but the essence of their existence. The shadows, once daunting, had turned into canvases upon which they could paint their journeys of healing and hope. Now, under the vast expanse of the cosmos, they were bound not just by their struggles but by an enduring promise to love fiercely amid uncertainty. As together they began to walk forward, Miriam felt the strength within her ripple through the fabric of their unity, propelling them toward a luminous horizon of possibility. In the depths of their shared experience, they had forged a new understanding. Love, entwined with loss, was not merely an emotion but an ongoing act of creation, a testament to the eternal kingdom coming forth within and among them, a truth that would echo through time and generations to come, embodying the very essence of their lives. And thus, as they journeyed onward, each step was a declaration of faith, a powerful revelation that the divine glimmers not just in the grandiose but in every genuine encounter of love and vulnerability that they dared to embrace.